a movement and something at the very beginning of change. I want to begin by thanking the City of Grace. Give them a round of applause for hosting us today. You know, it's interesting, the conversation, we were focused on relationships first, and let me tell you something. I got so many DMs, so many emails, so many texts from the women. The women were saying, is this for women too? Because I'm coming. And so I said, absolutely it's for women. It's actually a conversation for everyone. We're centering the conversation around men's mental health, but embedded in that is the women and relationships and all of the things that go with that. But you're in for a treat tonight because we have a star-studded panel of gentlemen that really are going to help guide us through this conversation at a level that I think is going to begin to peel back the layers in what is long overdue for this conversation. Before I start to bring up each of these panelists, and I know you're going to give them a rousing round of applause as they come before us, I want to take a minute to just recognize some of the elected officials that have joined us today. First, let me recognize Judge Stroud. Where's Judge Stroud? Thank you so much for being here. City of Whitehall Mayor Michael Bivens. Yeah. And then certainly my beloved bride, Congresswoman Amelia Sykes. And then I saw some other people come in. Herschel Craig, Senator Herschel Craig. And Whitehall Treasurer Shaquille O'Neal. I'm kidding. It's Shaquille. You know you want to be Shaquille O'Neal. Stand up. Sorry, go ahead. Give him a round of applause. Did I miss, are there any other elected officials? Did I miss anybody? Okay, good. All right, let's get down to business. All right. First, I'll group through these. Our first panelist today is Mr. Tripp Fontane. If you, Tripp, want to come on out. Tripp is a Dayton, Ohio native. Hold on, wait a minute. Look, Tripp, I think some of the ladies saw you and just started clapping, but that's not what I was trying to do. Tripp is a Dayton, Ohio native, an educator, and internationally renowned spoken word artist. Tripp Fontane has built quite the reputation for himself within the spoken word community after years of performing for free at open mic nights. Tripp's persistence and dedication to sharing his craft with the world paid off. A few of his many achievements include a commission in Cuba, a published book, and participation in Columbus's celebration of the 100th anniversary of the Harlem Renaissance. That's a big deal. Tripp uses his life experiences to paint a unique picture of his atmosphere and his upbringing, making tactful use of transparency and vulnerability, a lot we're going to talk about tonight. No topic is off limit for Tripp's, and part of the reason we ask him here tonight because he keeps it real. Give it up for Tripp Fontane, please. And then and Judge Stroud had introduced me to this young man, and she said, Commissioner Boyce, we need to go deeper here. And when I spent in 2 minutes of our call, I knew what it was, and I knew it was we had to do something different and big with this one. This is Dr. Russell Ledet, a Louisiana native and Indiana resident. We're lucky to have Dr. Ledet here. He traveled to be with us this evening. Dr. Ledet obtained his medical degree from Tulane University School of Medicine, in addition to serving in the U.S. Navy for nearly a decade and obtaining his PhD in molecular oncology at New York University. A champion for mental health in minority communities, bringing high-quality health care to a wide range of patients from different socioeconomic and cultural standpoints, and challenging the social determinants of health. Married for 17 years and is the father of 2 young girls, we know Dr. Ledet will offer a unique perspective to tonight's discussion. Thank you so much for being here. And certainly last but not least, and is no stranger to City of Grace, he is the pastor here at City of Grace, Dr. Michael Young. Give it up, my man. All right, now, calm down, calm down. Pastor, did you set that up? Okay, all right. He played a wall. Pastor Young has been the senior pastor here at City of Grace for the past 10 years, a well-known pastor, TBN host, public speaker, author, entrepreneur. Pastor Young is an infectious passion and vibrant energy to ignite every room that he walks in. That's so true. And I know tonight will be no different as we peel back the layers. Give him another round of applause. All right, let's get into it. All right. So as we mentioned, there's going to be a question on the screen, and we want you all to participate. So by scanning the QR code, I'm going to ask some questions, and I want you to vote real time, and we're going to look at what the feel of this room is, and then we're going to ask our expert panelists to help peel back the layers and dissect this conversation. Okay, it's going to be fun. Now, there's also a place where you can actually type in questions. So you can actually type questions and we'll look at them and we'll try to work those in the later part of the hour. So I really want you to participate. This is a community conversation about mental health and everybody should be included. And our experts are going to help us peel back the layers and it's going to be a good session. So let's start with the first video. All right. So to frame this question, and I want you to pull out your phones and scan it because I'm going to ask you to vote here. But a friend of mine I was talking to the other day, he said we were having this conversation kind of about this skit and about how we talk to our sons and kind of how that affects our mental health in the conversation. And my friend said something interesting to me. He said, I educate my son on what I call the 3 hearts. He said, every man has 3 hearts. He said, the first heart is what the public sees. How you doing today? Nice to see you. You look nice today. You look nice today. It's how you interact with somebody every day. That's the heart that everybody gets. The second heart, he said, is the heart that his loved ones get. You know, his wife, his children, his mom, the people very close to him. And then he told his son, he said, and the third heart is a heart that nobody ever gets to see. That I keep it tucked down way deep and protected. And I never, ever let that heart be exposed. So the question to you all, and I'm going to ask the panelists another question here, is do you agree with the 3 hearts? Do you think that's, for men, that's a real philosophy, even if it's not something that you've been taught? So let's vote now. So scan the QR code. We're going to vote. We're seeing... So we've got, is that a percentage or just numbers that are there? That's just the number. That's a number. Okay. So keep on voting. And the number is climbing. It's still climbing. Give people time to vote. And you can see some of the comments. Yes, it's very true. We hide a lot. That was hard to watch. Somebody said, could that put those comments up there, can you? Somebody said that was hard to watch because that reminded me of my own family. Yeah. I've been that dad. Heart in the eyes emoji. Somebody says confused, okay. It's very true. The hardest thing is not being able to be vulnerable even to your family. And I think, the votes numbers are still moving. Give people just a couple more seconds. And Dr. Ledet, I think I'm gonna start with you. And some of the comments are still coming in, very true. It reminds me of my family. Can you say the 3 hearts again? No. But that's real. It was very confusing. What is the point you're trying to make? We don't get to that. The third heart is the one that we struggle with in so many ways. That explains me, man. Y'all going too fast now. I can't read that fast. So I think you get the message. Dr. Ledet, open it up for us here. Let's get into it. what's the importance of both the father and son relationship, father and daughter relationship, and more importantly, how does that kind of vulnerability in men in particular impact everyone, the son's mental health, the dad's mental health, and let's peel back the layers a little bit.
Yeah, I think the quintessential relationship, right, is between a child and their parent. Generally in our society, we think of like a patriarchal structure. So like dad is at the head, and then mom is right under that, and then everybody kind of falls in line after that. And so everybody's looking to dad, which is great and problematic all in itself, and we'll talk about that. But the mental health piece really comes from this frustration that children have because they have an expectation. So frustration comes from an expectation that's not met. So if you want your kid to run 100 meters in 10 seconds and they run it in 12, you're frustrated because they're not meeting your expectation of 10. So for kids, their parents are the kids are frustrated at their parents because they're like, I really want you to be like what I see on TV or what is natural, and they don't get that. At the same time, the father is frustrated because he can't meet the expectation, right? And so now you have two frustrated people, which leads to generally depressed mood or anger or a lot of other frustrations. And what it really comes from is there's no tools. So you can't do something that you don't have the tools to do. So you have the tools to tie your shoes. You have the tools to button your shirt. You have the tools to say your name. You have the tools to read. You do not have the tools to express your emotions. And so you can't do it. It doesn't matter how much you want to do it. You cannot do it. You are not able to do it. And so you end up with children who have a tattered relationship with their parents, and parents who have a domineering relationship with their children because they want to control their child's behavior. And the children are like, I want to express my frustration to you. And this cycle of, I want to control your behavior, I want to express my frustration to you, I want to control your behavior, I want to express my frustration to you, never leads to the real issue in the middle, which is we both need something. That's good. Yeah. And the void there is what leads to oftentimes adults with unsolved, unsettled, and unseated trauma.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I want, Tripp, I'm going to go to you. I want you to build upon what Dr. Ledet just laid out in Pastor Young. I'm going to have you bring it home on this question too, picking up where Tripp leaves off, if you could.
First of all, give it up for the doc, because that was beautiful.
Yeah, you nailed that, yeah.
From there, I think I can only get personal because the professional was perfectly encapsulated. My pops is 72, so completely different cloth from most of my peers' parents. You know how some old folks had that second set of kids? That was me. So my dad was like 38 when I was born. So he come from a generation of men that were not just devoid of the tools to express their feelings, but taught not to have them, right? At 72, my dad is taught that he a good man for suppressing his feelings, that he's exactly what he's supposed to be by not letting nobody in, by never letting. The first time I saw my dad cry, I think I was 25, 26. And that's because life had just spiraled downward so far that my dad broke. It wasn't like a healthy cry. It wasn't like a, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was like my dad had gotten sick. The money was messed up. And he didn't even tell nobody he was drowning. That's how things got so bad. Because, you know, as a man, especially a man that's that old, you're taught you have to have the plan. Right. You have to have the way. You feel me? So I'm finding out what's going on. I walk in on my dad. This man is sobbing. And because to me, like you saying, you got these expectations of your parents. My dad played Superman for so long that I believed it. So I walk in the room and see this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not looking down on my dad. It broke me. I don't ever want to feel that feeling again. But I realized how unhealthy it was for me for it to be jarring to see my daddy as a man for the first time. And it shouldn't be, right? Seeing my dad vulnerable, seeing my dad be a human being should not be a jarring experience. it shouldn't have shook me like it did. Because it's not like my dad ain't never been through nothing. It ain't like we ain't never been through nothing as a family, but my dad's first response as an older man is to be tough for my family. Yeah. Be strong for my family. Never take care of myself, because your family always gonna need you, right? When you're the head of a family, the need never goes away. That's right. So at what point does my dad take time for himself to develop, to identify his emotions, to practice articulating his emotions? And so my dad was a man without boundaries, essentially. Because he always hid himself so everybody else could have a piece. He always put himself on the back burner so everybody else around him would be good. I would cry over my mom dying, but I got to go to work. I would cry over my sister dying, but I'm the one that got to coordinate the funeral. I would grieve over my kids moving to different cities, but I got to be proud of them, right? And so it wasn't until my dad reached probably his late 60s, right, that I'm talking to my dad about wanting to go to therapy, and I'm talking to my dad about my trauma growing up and being able to identify and articulate that my dad starts to talk to me like I'm grown now, you know, and he feels comfortable enough to open up to me, and it's just like, you kept all that? Yeah. I get it, why you so angry. Why you so short with people? Why your temper is what it is? Because you kept all that for us? Fam, that only eroded you. That only corroded your heart, fam. That only took up your mental capacity. So it's like when you see a man do that, and we continue to model that, because so many of us continue to model it, we wonder why we end up deficient like later on in life. Because all we really practice as men is compartmentalization. And that's not as efficient. Like, you suppressing your emotions is more, I'll leave it here. Fellas, you lacking emotion is much more of a sign of psychosis than it is you being tough. Wow. I mean, it's legitimate. Wow. I mean, when you start to look at like disorders and things, and I mean, Doc, you can honestly correct me if I'm wrong. When they start to look at disorders like narcissism, what is it? Anyway, point is, fam, you're not like tough for pretending you don't feel nothing. That's only gonna hurt you in the end. I'm not saying let everybody into your third heart, right? Because I don't think you should do that. They say in the Bible, above all things, protect your heart. You feel me? So, but you pretending you don't feel, you pretending you strong all the time, that only hurts you in the end, bro. You're the only one that got to pay for that.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Let's give it up for Brother Tripp.
Hey, Pastor, and just real quick, I wanted to point out, before you go in, I want to point out the response. You know, you see over 100 men said yes. They believe that the three hearts are something. And Tripp really kind of went into it. That's what he was describing, almost that third heart. Yeah. And then only 44 of the women to 3. Actually, that's most of the women probably, because 44 to 3 said they see that as well in men. So bring that question home for us.
Yeah, so first of all, can we give it up for Commissioner Boyce one more time for convening this very powerful and pertinent conversation? And lastly, can you give it up for yourselves, because the city of Columbus showed up because black men's mental health is important to them. Commissioner Boyce, I'm a father of 3. I have a 21-year-old daughter, a 19-year-old son, and a 12-year-old son. And I think sometimes the expectations that we have of men, and more specifically fathers, there is a tension to it. Right, Brother Tripp alluded to the fact that there is an expectation of a man, and more specifically a father, to be the hero. There is that expectation that exists. But at the same time, that same man who we expect to be a hero, he's simultaneously a human. And I think what I had to learn from my father, much like my brother Tripp, my father was 42 when he had me, so I got my father in his latter years. And for a long time, he did not communicate until he had congestive heart failure. He went into a coma for a week. When he came out that coma for a week, it transformed our relationship, because the threat of him being gone awoke something inside of me. Like, I haven't gotten everything out of this man that I need. And what I began to do is I began to dig and say, Dad, you are my hero. But at the same time, to every Superman, there is a Clark Kent. And what I had to learn is the help doesn't come from just viewing the hero, but the help, Brother Dominic, comes from having conversations with the human. And when my father was willing to be transparent, not just about his strengths, but about his weaknesses, not just about his successes, but even his failures. My father was a man who was married 4 times. Him and my mother weren't ever married. Dad, help me to understand, how does that come to pass? Right? Well, Mike, I would have did this different, and this is where I came up short. And you know what? This is where I could have improved in this particular relationship. I abandoned a situation in this moment when I should have stuck it out. Hearing him talk through the human part is what really helped me as a father. So now when I sit down with my children, they don't see Pastor Michael Young. They don't care nothing about lead pastor of the City of Grace, right? They want to talk to their dad, and they want counsel around the real challenges and the real issues that they may be facing in life. And what we do is we put on a facade too often. The problem with the facade is we create not just unrealistic expectations for ourselves, but we begin to build unrealistic expectations for our children to live out. And this is not just true for men, it's true for women and mothers as well. The way we paint the picture is if we never failed. The way we paint the picture is we went off to college and we weren't off the hook. The way we paint the picture is we never had toxic relationships, right? So now when we see our children participating in those things, we don't reveal the fact that, baby girl, I know what you're going through because I've been through it too. Son, I understand what it's like to be like that because you know what? I had a season where I did the exact same thing. So I think it's important for us to communicate not just the fact that, hey, in that moment of need, I'm willing to be the hero, but I think we got to communicate the fact that, yes, you know what, I'm a human being as well. And the help for the next generation is not always in the hero. Sometimes it's having a chance to converse with the human.
Man. Now, and I know someone asked the question about the video and the 3 hearts and whatnot. Do you feel like you understand it now? You feel like at all? The question is, for all of you, now just by show of hands, how many of you could relate to the video with regards to your father, who you talk to, or you as the father? Either way, how many people can relate to that? So that's okay, good. All right, let's go to the next video. Let's get into it a little bit.
Coldness that you have to accept when you're a man. Only women, children, and dogs are loved unconditionally. A man is only loved under the condition that he provides something.
No man leaves a woman because she's broke. Men leave when they're disrespected, undervalued, and unloved. Straight up.
Straight up. All right. So the poll question is for everybody. Are men, do you think men are uniquely measured by their ability to provide, and what implications to our panelists does that have on their mental health? So that's their part. Your question is, do you think men are uniquely judged by their ability to provide? Uh-oh. Oh, we got one man. Said no. Let's see. Somebody said most definitely in the comments. I'm a little surprised at the women responses right now. That's really like interesting. Indeed, somebody said. You know it's something when you get in one word types, unfortunately. If you can't provide, you're dead weight in a woman's eyes. Somebody said 1,000%. This is a no-brainer. They're judged by money and looks. Let's let this keep coming in. If it can't pay my bills, I don't want him. Ooh. Who said that? Stand up. I want to see. I always stand up.
There's about
raise your
15 of them that
hand.
just stood up.
Yeah, right. They're like, girl, you speak for all of us. It has to be a shared experience. Oh, yes, yep. It's injury. Real talk. Somebody said real talk. Tripp, I'm going to go to you first just so you know, just so you ready. Absolutely. A man is considered deadbeat if he cannot or struggles to provide. And it's interesting. I mean, you look at the last numbers, they're a little similar, but you meet a woman, the first thing her mother will ask is, what does he do? Somebody said, no diggity, no doubt. Peace the Black Street. Okay. So Tripp, is this true? Is this true that men are judged by their ability to provide? You know, we asked the question, we were going through the rehearsals earlier in my office, and I had some female staff and some male staffers there, and I said the question, so, okay, if, you know, is that true? And it was interesting because some of the women say, yeah, it's true. You know, like I have a standard, and if you don't present to match up to that standard, then no, it's a non-starter. And so take us there. Let's get into it.
Take us there, Tripp. Take us.
First of all, yeah, I think men are heavily scrutinized based on their status. I don't think it's just necessarily what you provide, right? It's the display of what you provide, right? But I think there's a deeper issue as far as our community is concerned. When it comes to being black in America, we're still disenfranchised, like currently, right? This is still a thing. So you have this historical journey for black people here where we've been kept out of the market itself, but a man was still expected to be a man. There was a point in time where I legally couldn't work there. I legally couldn't make this amount of money, but I was still expected to be a man. Today, we still don't get paid the same amount as white men on the dollar, but I'm still expected to deliver what he delivers. If that's the home my wife wants in that neighborhood, despite not being paid the same amount, I'm expected to be able to. And the crazy part is, even when we make the same amount, same credit score, the stats recently came out a few years ago that said we likely to not get the same loan. So it means that even with me still being a black man in America, there are places where my wings are clipped when I'm trying to flourish. But there is no grace for that because there's man attached to my blackness, right? So it's almost like you got this, I can't even call it a double-edged sword, really. Like, you almost got this lose-lose situation where it's like there's this standard, because we have to be frank about where the standard comes from. This is a very Eurocentric standard that we've assimilated into. They're the majority in this country. That's just how that goes. White men decided what man is in this country. They built that idea with us below it. We've been trying to catch up ever since. They've continually moved the goalpost. First, it was you got to go to school. We went. You got to get the good jobs. We got them. You got to live in the neighborhoods. Now they call us DEI hires. You feel me? So it's like, as a man, you have to contend with this idea that you're still not man enough while having to be man for everybody around you. And so it's almost like a lose-lose sometimes. Like, when you do it, you're still not doing it good enough. And so there's a particular stress, I think, that comes with that as black men that most of us could probably resonate with.
Thank you. Pastor Young, yeah. Pastor Young, is there an impact, to build on what Tripp was saying, is there an impact on the mental health of that sort of expectation of providing, the expectation, and for some men, there was said earlier, for some men, they go out and do things to try to meet that standard, and sometimes it gets them in trouble. Sometimes it leads down a path of some problems, and it make the connection to the mental health. And I bring it home with you, Dr. Ledet.
Yeah, so I think as it relates to men and their ability to provide, I think it really creates a whole identity issue And I think, to be frank, sometimes as men, we actually contribute to this identity issue and we contribute to the expectations because too often men lead with the materials, right? They lead with their ability to pay for dinner. They lead with what their dress code is. They lead with what type of car they drive, what the square footage on their house is. And the reason why many men lead with that is to be frank, is because they don't completely understand who they are. So as a result, we begin to define ourselves by what we have, and what we have is separate from who we really are, right? So now what we find is we find a domino effect that it creates comparison within our community, right? And the long-term effect of comparison is it creates competition. Right, so now if I look at this gentleman right here and he's driving a particular car and my car really ain't matching up with his car, or he has a certain bank account and my bank account's not matching up with his bank account, now I find myself striving not to be me, now I'm striving to be him. And he don't even really know who he is. And now when we introduce, a relationship with a woman, now we got somebody who doesn't completely understand who they are, leading with an identity that really isn't their identity. And now there's a ton of confusion, right? So now when we actually get into a covenant relationship, the expectation of the woman, because this is the expectation that we created, her expectation is you're gonna be that same man who you introduced me to at the beginning of this thing. And then we get frustrated over time because you only see me based upon what I can provide, but I help create that expectation. So I think what we need to do is we need to unpeel and we need to approach relationships differently, right? How you doing? I'm Mike. And you are Lachelle or Director Pride, right? Introduce who you are as a human being, not what you have the ability to provide. And when we begin to tap into the identity element, like that's when it's going to begin to elevate more healthy habits as it relates to our mental health, right? But we, and to be frank, and all I know how to be is me, regardless who's the audience, as a community, we struggle with this. This point for so long, we didn't have anything. So what we typically do is we typically wear our money. Right, we drive our money. Right, we're not thinking long term about investments and Roth IRAs and how can I acquire this particular property to leave something to not just the next generation but the generation after that. So we have a very consumer-based mentality because our identity is predicated upon what we look like or the material things that we have, and it creates a spiral effect that I'm sure our very astute doctor is going to tell us what the diagnosis is of that.
Wow. And I'll set you up with somebody wrote, it was going fast, I couldn't see all the questions, but somebody wrote, a partnership is a lost art. And so maybe build on that and build on Pastor Young's comments.
Yes, oh man, there's so much I could say about this. So I think there are a few issues here. As a physician, I'm gonna go ahead and talk to y'all about a disease. I think specifically in America, we have an issue of the disease of consumption. Right. Meaning, we buy things to buy things. Meaning, like, if I have, my wife was talking to me about this today. We are getting ready to close on our home, right? And we're talking with this electrician last night. And this guy is presenting to us smart plugs. Meaning plugs for the wall that you can talk to that will turn off a light for you. And I said, baby, we never gonna buy that. She's like, what? She's like, it's so cool. I was like, cool doesn't mean intelligent. It's just like an experience thing, and people come up with ideas because ideas are ubiquitous. They're everywhere. And I told her, like, that's stupid. It's like really dumb for us to buy that. She's like, but it exists. I was like, there's a lot of things that exist that we should have boundaries against. So there's this disease of consumption. The issue with the disease of consumption, to my brother Tripp's here point, is that the quintessential example of consumption is the white male. in America. I recently learned about Mount Rushmore. If you go and read this book, Black Elk Speaks, you will learn about the Dakota. The Dakota had this land that they felt was their way to connect with their gods. That land is where the Rushmore is. There was a treaty that they would never touch this land. But out of consumption and greed, we touched it. And we put some faces on it because that made sense. Put faces on a mountain, that sounds like a great idea. It's an idea of consumption. So we have a great model of consumption. We have a big steel statue in New York, right? In the water, the Statue of Liberty. Why? Because we can. So consumption model, from a modeling perspective, was taught to us a long time ago. That's how we established the United States of America. We consumed it from someone else. Now, you have black men, you have everyone else, not just black men, everyone else, who are aspiring to be able to consume at the same rate. And everyone in their tribe needs to consume at the exact same rate, right? So that person has a pressure on them to fit the model. In America, we just consume more, even when we don't need it, right? So there's that part. The other part, specifically for black men, there's this idea of a buck, like a mandingo. Because if you think about it, it's not just producing money. It's also producing sex. There's a lot more to it. It's like, can you produce? Right?
Talk about it.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you cut the grass? Can you do the thing? Can you be a human? We never ask that question. All of the things that we require out of a person that is a man, we never ask them to be human.
At all.
But we ask them to buy and to grow and to cultivate and to do all the things except be human. Because being human would be odd. Because hunters aren't human. Consumers aren't human. And the model for all of our behavior, especially in the US, like, we gotta go buy a $2,000 bag if we get $4,000. Because why not? Right? So at the core of all of this, yes, in a patriarchal society, it's gonna be a man that is gonna be the bearer of behavior. Meaning, what is everyone gonna have to model after? What that man is doing. And where's that man getting his idea of what he should do? Well, how does it work in our country? You make more money to buy more things, right? And that's kind of what the issue really comes down to. And I talked to Tripp about this while everybody was voting. Perspective is everything. So if you are not the person producing, it doesn't seem that hard. Like I don't understand how my mom raised me and my sister. She was a single mom. I'm a dad who's been married for nearly 20 years. I don't know if I could raise a child by myself. As a matter of fact, I know I can't raise a child by myself. But perspective is everything, right? So you ask a single mom, they're like, it ain't that bad. But then you on the other side, you like, I can't do that. So for everyone who's consuming what that person is producing, it doesn't seem that difficult. Because you're on the getting end. You're not on the giving end. And the person who is giving is subhuman to you. Because they don't have to express any emotion. They don't have to seem humanistic. They don't have to behave humanistically. They just have to do. I'm gonna leave y'all there.
Before we move on,
I want to, go ahead, Tripp, you had something to add to that? Go ahead.
Yeah, just before we move on, because we have talked about it openly about where this standard comes from. And I think as black people, as community, we talk a lot about how to get on the same page, about how to be community, about how to... The thing that tore us apart is what we're talking about now, right? This idea, this false sense of assimilation, this false sense of individualism that comes with assimilating into American ideology. To make that plain, prior to desegregation, we knew we needed each other. It didn't matter if you were a lawyer, a doctor, a dope dealer, somebody auntie in the church. We knew we needed each other. There was no question about it. Once we got the room to question it, We questioned it to the point that we really felt like we didn't need each other. We started to move away from ourselves. We started to divide ourselves, the good ones and the bad ones. Oh, don't trust those ones. Those ones aren't worth helping. They would never appreciate it. We did that to ourselves. We did that part. There are parts that, yes, we can point to the system. Yes, we can point to the government. And we can call those things true too. But the ideology that's keeping us away from one another, you adopt that personally, family. No one can change your ideology but you. And if you continue to buy into something that tells you as long as you good, that's enough, then this is where we end up, right? The community has to start with an idea in you. You have to believe that the black man next to you, the black woman is next to you is worth something off the strength. Because they black, because you know what being black here means, because you know the gravity of black manhood. That's why you prop the man next to you up. Not because he's beneficial, not because he make good money, not because he a good networking opportunity, because you know it's heavy, fam. We forgot that somewhere.
Yeah. You know, somebody typed in the text that said there's not an objective voice on this panel. And so I want to take a little quick step back and stay here for just a second. Because even if you say that, look at the poll results, and it really comes down to men feel like they are judged based on their ability to provide. And so whether you're subjective about it or objective about it, that's how the majority of men feel. For a second, just zero in on the psychology of the impact of what feeling like that's your value is because it may not be true, but the psychology that you feel that way might be, and that's what these poll numbers say. So talk about the impact, the mental impact of the psychology of feeling like you're only valued on what you can do for me, what you can contribute to me, what you can produce for me. Anybody jump in?
You know, Commissioner, I'm just going to say something real quick and I'll shut up. The easiest thing to do is to invalidate the feelings of a man.
Come on.
It's like the lowest hanging fruit, literally. It's like the one that like you could be like, oh, that's not exactly how it goes. Because generally, those voices are canceled out anyway. I did this recently. I've asked, I think I'm up to 1,000 now. My brother Dave is in the building because we were at a coffee shop last weekend at the Parable, and I asked him this question at the table. I said, bruh, what does kindness sound like to a black man? Y'all hear that? That's how everyone responds. Because you know why? If I say orange jumpsuit, everyone in here can visualize a black man in an orange jumpsuit. Everyone. They've seen thousands of images in their head. So subconsciously, right, black men often, or just really men in general, equate to subservient humans, essentially slaves. So consciously, you don't really have to validate how they feel, because subconsciously, you don't really value them anyway. So the idea of kindness is so foreign to a black man because it would be akin to showing kindness to someone on death row. It would be wild for you to do that. Or someone who you think of as if you all get a chance, Isabel Wilkerson wrote a book called Caste. There's a movie called Origin by Ava DuVernay. They talk about the lowest of the low in India. They oil themselves up and they hop in a pool of poop, to clean out the septic tank. Imagine giving them a 5-star meal. That would be the antithesis of what makes sense, right? That's also the equation for black. It doesn't behaviorally make sense. which is why the carnage of a black man, even George Floyd, does not really bother us as much as we think it did, because we've essentially moved on. Because it's not that foreign from having a black man hung from a tree where they can have a picnic beneath him. It's not that foreign. So this subjective thing is off base, honestly, because there's data to support it, actually. So that's why the whole objective subjective thing is actually very off base, like from a definition perspective, but also it's very substantiated by the data. But also, the easiest thing to do is to invalidate a kid's feelings and a man's feelings. What is our response? Ignore it. Yeah.
So I'm going to jump in, and I still want the other panelists to comment. We're going to stay here for a second. You know, was it Bernie Mac that did the stand-up and said, I ain't scared of you? That's what I'm saying, because I ain't scared of your questions. I'm not scared of your questions. And this panel is not scared of your questions either. So let me get that straight. So let me throw out some questions that came up on the board as you were talking, Dr. Ledet. And I'm gonna go to you, Pastor. One of them said, there should be different views on the panel. I agree with that. But sometimes everybody just sees it the same way, and that could be by chance. I mean, I'm certain there are 8 people who thought otherwise, but the vast majority believed that. And so I'm all about different perspective and different point of views. Another question, Pastor Young, and then Tripp, I'm gonna come to you. Another question was, what about, and this is really, because these are 2 questions that came up on the screen that were similar, and so I'm gonna put them together. One said, what about men who don't identify as heterosexual? And then someone else said, what about men who don't identify as being black? So take us there and weave in, again, does it apply to men that don't identify as heterosexual, or men that don't maybe, is it just black men?
Yeah, so I think most certainly it really comes to the role piece, right? Who is the dominant figure in the relationship? So whether a man be heterosexual or a man not be heterosexual, if he's in that position where there is an expectation for him to provide, the same pressure will exist. The problem with the pressure to provide and the pressure to produce in all these different spheres, and then I compare myself to my brother and his ability to produce, is that pressure many times has the ability to push us outside of our own individual purpose. Right? If you look at the scriptures, God came into the garden and he posed a question. He said, Adam, which actually means man, where art thou? Now, this is God. He's omniscient, which means he knows all things at all times. There's never a time where God doesn't have all information. So why in the world is the person who has all information asking questions? Reason why God was asking the question was not for his own benefit or his own edification, but it was to point out something to Adam, or the man. And he's asking the question, Adam, where are you? What he's indicating is he's telling Adam, there are 3 things that you're out of. You're out of place, you're out of position, and you're out of your purpose. Well, many times these societal pressures will push us out of our place, it'll push us out of our position, and it'll push us ultimately out of our purpose. Now, doesn't matter if you're heterosexual, homosexual, doesn't matter how you identify. If you're in that role where the expectation is for you to produce, and as both of these gentlemen said, you have a societal pressure on top of that to produce and outproduce the next man, it will push you into a space that God never called you to.
Okay. Tripp, I'm gonna bring us home on this. And by the way, the next video in question is about gender roles. And so we're going to transition right into this. And I'm telling you, when I say I'm not scared of your questions, I'm serious about that, but I got to keep it moving because I don't want to keep you here all night. So Tripp, bring us home on this part. And somebody asked the question, what about if you don't identify with being black? Does this apply to white men to an expectation of being a provider or what they can provide to a household?
I ain't gonna hold you, gang. It's not even about to be deep, I don't think. I'm going to just kind of take this moment, and I'm going to own this. That question offended me. Both of them, actually. Only black people ask to be objective about their experience. Only poor folks ask to be objective about their experience. How am I to be objective about what I went through? It's my testimony. I don't clock in and out of being a black man. It don't turn off. The only thing that I get as a black man is spaces like this one where I'm centered so I know I'm safe. And you ask me to be objective in it? We have a city where it's possible for the government itself to get behind a conversation centered around black men, and I'm asked to center somebody else in it. You're not going to disrespect me like that. You're not. At max, including our undocumented, including our guys behind the wall, we 14%? I'm being generous, 14% of the population? We don't got a lot of space just by the math. We definitely don't have a lot of space where this conversation is happening, which is why the government here had to intervene to make it happen. So we got black boys in this room. We got black girls in this room.
Give it up for them young men that's in this room, too. Give it up for them.
With all due respect to anybody that asks, like, I'm definitely willing to get into the gender conversation, into the sexuality conversation, but as far as like race and decentering black men, I would be setting a terrible example for them black boys about what the world expect them to do, because the world expect them to decenter themselves, and that's what we talking about, ain't it? About being vulnerable, about being open. Like, how I'm supposed to be open if you gonna cast me to the side afterwards? You feel me? So like, I had to express that. It's not even a deep thing, but like, with no personal disrespect to whoever asked that, but like, read the flyer before you pull up next time.
And this is our, and I'll say this is our first swipe at this, and we're gonna get into it. You know, this is the first of a series, and then we're ending with a major summit, a citywide regional summit to really peel back the layers. And so this is not just one conversation, one day, one opportunity. I want to hear from you tomorrow. I want to hear from you the next week, and we're gonna put this together so that when we have that summit, we're peeling back the layers and we've moved the needle of progress. So, all right, next video. Let's keep it moving. Next video.
So you're telling me that a woman has to go work like a man every day, and a man goes work and he's tired when he gets home. A woman's not tired. She has to clean, cook, do the dishes, do the laundry. Are you kidding me?
Why don't you want to do that?
What are you talking about? Why don't I want to? You know how fucking tiring that is? Have you done that?
First of all,
I
do it every day.
First of all, do not choose a woman who don't want to be a woman.
Right.
So you don't want to be a woman. You don't want to be a woman.
Yelling doesn't mean you're winning the argument. It's a sign of low intelligence. You can lower your voice and speak to me. I'm sitting right here. I can hear you. So all this, I cook and I clean, and like, yeah, that's part of your function. But when your tire is flat, my function is to make sure you have a new tire.
But
when your car needs an oil change, it's my job to make sure these people ain't ripping you off. We have different duties and functions and responsibilities. And if you don't love your duty, your function, your responsibility, you're not fit to be a wife, period.
Oh my God. No, he not.
All right. Hey, you know what? Listen, you ain't seen nothing yet. We're gonna end with teeing you up to the next series of questions for the next series, and it gets way better. It gets way better. So, the question to the audience is, are gender roles relevant to the success of a relationship? So, are there gender roles? Answer that question for me. You know, is there a role of a man? Is there a role of a woman in a relationship? Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh, now we're going to go to percentages, I guess. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I agree. That's probably more reflective. And so for those you can't see, it says, so we asked the question, are to what extent do you believe a man should take the role of provider in a relationship? Okay, so they changed the question on me. It says, it's the same thing embedded, but it says, to what extent do you believe a man should take on the role of a provider? Now, you can redo your vote, but for what extent do you believe a man should take on a provider relationship? So again, is there role, because the lady up there, the lady was saying, you know, you want me to come home and cook and clean? And then he was saying, you know, you want me to, you know, if you got a flat tire, you expect me to fix it, right? You expect me to take care of that. And so is there? So it seems like, so we've got, just given the quick response, and Pastor Young, I think you're up first on this one. But give the quick response, is this so 9% so far, and people, votes are still coming in. Keep those questions coming in too, because I'm gonna, and by the way, if you've got questions, they're putting them up fast here, so it's hard for me to capture them. So I don't know if there's a way to staff to give me some of their questions, because I'm really not, I'm just the ones I can catch that seem to make sense. I'm trying to take. But I got to see. But he was saying whoever's on the computer should be able to see him. But I need to have them relayed to me, because they're going fast and I can't capture them. So just real quick here. So it says 10% say fully he should be the primary financial provider. 37% said share, both partners should contribute equally. 51% said, and that seems to be the majority of feedback, situational. It depends on each person's circumstance and preferences. I mean, and I can't wait to see what these questions are. So, Pastor Young, you're up. Is there a gender role in relationships?
So I think it's flawed for us to think that it is a one-size-fits-all approach. If Dr. Ledet and myself happen to go to Macy's and we pull an outfit off the rack, right, the outfit that's going to fit me is not necessarily the outfit that's going to fit him. You can add another nuance to it, right? He may not like button-up shirts with flowers on them, right? This is what I like. This is my preference. I think relationships are similar to that. What may work for me may not necessarily work for the next man, right? There may be certain expectations that I have, and as a result, that's going to determine the mate that ends up with me. There may be certain expectations that this brother has or this brother has that would drive me crazy, right? I could never live in a relationship or a household like that. So I think there is some nuance to it, right? What Tripp desires may not be what Mike desires. What Commissioner Boyce desires may be different than what I desires. But yet and still, there's certain probably black and white expectations. Like when we're both asleep, right, and we hear glass break, right? I don't know too many men that are tapping the woman and saying, hey, honey, can you go see what's going on out there, right? There's a pretty general consensus probably in this room, brother, you need to go figure out what's going on before they come in here and kill us, right? It's always us until it's time to go find out if that's the robber or not. So I think there are certain situations to where it is relatively black and white, but I think there's other situations where it's nuanced. I look at my father. My father was raised in the Deep South. He was raised in a traditional Southern family. My father could cook with the best of them. So in the relationships that he was in, he was willing to kind of carry that role to a degree. Now, anybody who's going to be with me, my wife would tell you, anybody who knows me, I ain't cooking a darn thing, right? So, right, just don't take this off the rack if it don't fit you and what your needs are in a relationship, right? You may have an expectation as a man that you know, your wife is going to be the one who does the cooking and the cleaning, right? Well, when y'all went out and you figured out, right, that she couldn't make nothing but, you know, scrambled eggs and turkey bacon, you should have known then, right, before you get into the marriage relationship, and now there's frustration because she's not producing on what you desire. So I think there are some extremes that are black and white. There's certain expectations as a man, right? It shouldn't just be a woman's expectation. It's my expectation of myself. And then I think in the middle, there's some gray and there's some nuances. And believe it or not, I do know how to run a vacuum too. I can't believe I said that in public.
No, I think that was good though, and I think it's real. I think you said it in a way that's real. All right, Dr. Ledet, now I'm gonna say we've run out of time. They've told me, and I do have audience questions, and I want to be fair to this audience. Y'all came out on a Thursday night. The game's coming on in a little bit, and so I want to make sure we get to some of their questions. Dr. Ledet.
Yep. I've been married for 18 years now. Let me tell you all a few things about my own marriage. I did my wife's hair for 14 years. I maintained my wife's hair for 14 years. I do all the cooking in my house, 100% of the cooking in my house. I bring my kids to violin. I sit down and have social emotional conversations with them, mainly because I'm the psychiatrist in the home. But I don't know how to access my bank account. I don't need to either. My debit card works every single time. And I say that because my wife and I have always had marriage mentors, meaning people who were way ahead of us, who could teach us the things that we did not know so that we could get over just like them, even healthier. And this very old couple, which just so happened to be my mother-in-law and father-in-law, told us, make your marriage what God calls your marriage to be. Not what anyone else's marriage needs to be, because comparison is a thief of joy. So what this question is really asking is about comparison. How does someone else know what you do in your house? I don't even think that's their business. If you come to my house and the crawfish etouffee tastes good, just say it tastes good. I'll let you know whether or not I cooked it.
Yeah.
And so it's just, at the end of the day, it's just about not comparing yourself, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, you set it off with all that. I cook, I did hair. Who can't, man, we can't keep up with that. Come on, man. That ain't right.
Yeah. Commissioner Boyce, please do not have this brother back on another panel.
Right, I know. You can't be out here doing that, man. What's wrong with you? We need to have a pre-meeting, pre-conference next time. Stuff you can't share. All right, Tripp, bring us home on that. I do want to read some of the comments. Some of the comments were roles should be established. Somebody said that gender doesn't define the role. And somebody said, I like this one the best, Pastor Mike be knowing. So I like that one.
It depends on who you ask, Commissioner Boyce.
Okay, Tripp, bring us home on this question. And then I'm going to go to the audience questions to end.
Yeah, I'll be quick so you can get to their questions. I actually agree with both of the gentlemen on stage. I think to a degree, I believe in gender roles that are backed by biological makeup. If I'm stronger than you, I probably should be lifting the heavy things. You know what I'm saying? That part just makes sense. Everything outside of that, I feel like, where are your skills and where are mine? That's right. That we are two humans who have set out and made a commitment to do the rest of life together. What are you good at in life? What am I good at? As he said, because I think, I'm not going to say it was missed, but I want to focus back in on it because my last relationship was the same way. Her job started at $125K while I was a teacher. There was never an issue about financial head, you need to be doing this. Her credit score had been in the high 7s since she was a teenager. You gonna handle the finances, babe. I don't feel like less of a man because of it. I don't feel like I'm not doing my job. I don't feel like I'm not, I clock in at mine just like you clock in at yours. You know what I'm saying? And she never made me feel less than. That wasn't a part of our conversation because clearly that's your skill set. Clearly, this is mine. So where you're strong, you gonna be out front. Where I'm strong, I'm gonna be out front. That has nothing to, and I think a part of the problem, Pastor, you hit on this earlier. I think as people, we get caught up in making the role our identity. Whether we do it well, whether we don't, it could be a source of pride or a source of stress. But we get caught up in what a man is supposed to be doing, what a woman is supposed to be doing. Hey, just don't get on my nerves. I done cultivated a lot of peace over here. Just don't get on my nerves, and we might be able to do something.
Look, that's what it all goes down to, man. Just try to smile. All right, so we got to wrap this up because it's getting late, the hour's late, so I want to wrap this up. So I got several questions, and here's what I'd like to do, panelists. I'm going to read a question, and I only want one person to answer the question, so I can go to the next question, and then I want to try to get to as many of the questions as we can. So just, if you like that question, just say, I got this question, and it will just keep it moving. Okay, so the first question, I'm supposed to hit approve, and it shows up here on the screen. Let's see if this works, technology works. I'm going to go with the first question. It's not coming up. That ain't the question. Okay, here we go. The first question is one of the reasons why some of us black men are hesitant to speak out about our mental health due to pride and or ego? Who wants to take that?
I mean, that may be a very small component of it. I think the bigger issue is what I talked about earlier, is tools. If you think about it, if you start off doing push-ups today, you probably won't be able to do 100. If you practice every day, 1 year from now, 100 won't be an issue. The same thing is with talking about our mental health. The first day, it sucks. 100 days later, it ain't that bad. So it's about practicing, right? We asked LeBron to teach us how to play, how to shoot free throws, not me, right? We have me teach you how to do therapy because it makes sense. I've practiced it thousands of times. So it's about practicing more than anything. And the pride and ego thing is variable at best, but we don't have the tools. We don't have the tools.
Commissioner, can I just piggyback very quick on that? I don't think it's just the tools. I think it's safe spaces to exercise the tools, right? Some brothers don't have safe spaces to where they can be the vulnerable, transparent, 100% authentic version of themselves. One of the blessings I have is I got 3 brothers who know all my business. They know where the dead bodies are buried. They know the successes, the failures. They don't know just Pastor Mike. They know Michael, and they know Mike, right? So I think the tools are important, but I also think finding safe spaces and places to where you can exercise those tools are important.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Why is it so easy for men to listen to others, be vulnerable, but it's so hard for us to be vulnerable to others when they ask? Who wants to take that?
Conditioning. That's what you taught. Again, a part of being a man is taught to have a plan in the way. Oh, and let me put this out there too. Unfortunately, the way we're taught as men to listen is not to listen to understand and empathize, it's to listen to solve. So a lot of times you actually not listening to the person in front of you, you're just listening to the problem long enough to figure out what to do, which is, again, dehumanizing yourself, right? So I think it is really about what we're conditioned and what's put on a boy early, not even a man, because this expectation to perform and be able to do and provide and bring something to the table, especially for us who come from like poor families, poor neighborhoods, bro. I was made aware that I was a burden early teenage years by being told you got to kick in, you got to put in, we need to see about getting you a job, you feel me? So I listened to my mama, you feel me, voice her complaints as if I wasn't, or as if I chose to be here, and I empathized with that and went to go do it. I never told my mom that I hated having to have a job while I'm playing football. I never told her that having a job also took focus away from school, because this is what you know what I'm saying? It starts early for a lot of us. So again, I think it's a conditioning thing, but moreover, I don't want you to believe that you're always being a good guy by showing up like that, because most of the times, again, I don't think we're empathizing. I truly think we're still performing by trying to fill that problem and fill that role.
Man, all right. I got 7 questions up here. We're not going to do all of them. So because we got one small video to show, a closing video, and then a closeout where each comments from the panel. So, but some of them had some specific questions. So, as a divorced man and hands-on father who no longer lives with his children, what advice or steps would you recommend to deal with the trauma of family separation? My daughter no longer speaks to me.
I mean, I'll tackle that. My parents were never married, but they did live in separate households. And what I commend them for, although on a personal level they had differences, disagreements, and probably even dislike of each other on a personal level, they made the commitment to value me above themselves. And what they said was, they said, regardless how I feel about you, we both have this common interest that we love him. And as a result, we got to make parenting work even if we don't make partnership work. So I think it's important. Our tendency is to build walls and not bridges, especially if the relationships ends in a manner that one party is hurt, right? Somebody's building walls and it becomes very difficult to climb walls. But for the health of our children and the health of the next generation, we need to learn the habit of building bridges versus building walls, even if we choose not to be together as a couple.
Yeah, man, that's heavy. That's heavy. Next question. What is something from your, now I like this question too. We're gonna, I think there's one other question I want to get to, but so then it's a short question. What is something from your childhood that you had to unlearn as an adult? Tripp, you laugh. I'm interested. But I'll start with saying that I'm going through that process now. And at 53, I'm going through that process to sort of, and I've discovered a lot of things. I deal with things today as an adult based on experiences as a child. And I'm trying to unwind that at 53, and it's not easy. But Tripp, is there something that struck you on that?
I'll just pick one thing, I guess, because I think is most pertinent to the conversation. I had to unlearn my definition of manhood. I've talked about it a lot in this conversation. My ideals of manhood were really based on white ideal, right? And those standards, I think, in a lot of ways caused me to look at my own people as less than, depending on what they were doing, right? The way I'm starting to think, at least at the time, was like, if you're not going to college, if you're not about your business, if you're not getting yourself together, then you're not worthy. Not understanding that this is exactly how my oppressor wants me to look at my people, as having to perform into being worthy, as having to perform into being worth fighting for and worth being in community with. And it was harmful for me, right? Because there were certain parts of my black experience that I disregarded. There were certain parts of my culture that I disregarded and began to look down on, when these were the things that made me who I am. And so when I'm in college, I'm getting introduced to new literature, new writers. I went to a predominantly white high school, so this is what molded me. And now I'm reading the Marcus Garveys, I'm reading the Kwame Ture's, I'm reading the Angela Davises, I'm being exposed to Alice Walker, and I'm reading these things, and they're starting to change my perspective about not just my black experience, about myself. And changing my ideas about myself, I think it started to change the way that I looked at my community and my people.
Man, that's heavy. That's heavy. Next question. Yeah, you can give him a round of applause for that. Yeah. Next question. And I'm gonna end on this. Do you think that a therapist should be gender specific, meaning men seek a male therapist and vice versa? Dr. Ledet.
Oh man. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, so the person who asked about the divorce thing, the answer to your question is you need to go to therapy. No, seriously, you need to go to therapy, like yesterday. I think there's a person who's associated with this event, Mr. Cosper is his name? Is that Cosper,
yep.
Right?
Dr. Marcus Cosper, right here.
Yeah. You all should get in touch with him. He's made himself available for this event. You seriously need to go to therapy. Therapy is like dating. It's like dating. Sometimes you hit it the first time, and I'm not talking about sex. I'm saying the first time you get at it.
I'm glad you clarified that in the church, in the sanctuary.
Yeah. I'm not talking about sex. Yeah. The first time you hit it, you meet them, y'all hit it off, and it rolls. And Sometimes you don't. You have to find someone who understands where you are, who understands your lived experience, who can help you navigate your interpretation of your lived experience and help you to fix some distortions. That is a real thing that requires a ton of work. It's like riding a Peloton on the hardest setting there is. It's gonna take a while to get through therapy. But if you really are invested in it, like Tripp was just saying, you'll have so much insight into who you actually are as opposed to what you want people to view you as. That's two different things. Yeah. So therapy is the answer. And it does not have to be gender specific. It has to be an organic match that you feel like is appropriate. And then the techniques are depending on what you really want to do, whether it's, CBT or whatever, psychodynamic therapy or whatever. You have to figure that out with the person based on what their talents and expertise is, but you do need to go to therapy.
All right. Okay, yeah, give him a round of applause. And the therapy part is real. There are resources out in the hallway, and you can reach out to us to get resources if you need some referrals. And very serious about that. And again, stick with us on this Soul Talk series. Stick with us and come to the summit. Let's peel back the layers. Let's get into it, and let's build a movement, and let's move the needle for men in our community. So they just gave me a question because they said it came from a young person, and we wanted to make sure that we zeroed in on that. And so we're going to do that, and then as we do that, I want the panelists to be thinking about that one thing that you would say to the audience in closing today. And we got to keep it short because we got to wrap up and get these folks out of here. So with this last question, I'll let you pick who wants to answer it, but then think about that one thing we want to leave folks with. So it says, father-son relationships significantly influence how young men develop into adulthood. What advice would you give young men who lack a relationship with their fathers? How can the resources you provide help those who desire a father-son relationship despite not having one?
Can I say the hard thing out loud?
Uh-huh.
Not everyone will have a great relationship with their father. I will say that out loud. There are some people who are hell-bent in their beliefs, and that's the reality of it. So let's just deal with the radical truth. The second thing is, I don't know if everybody tells boys this enough. You need mentors.
That's good.
I think about some of the people in my life, like Bishop Tillman, Commissioner Boyce, Pastor Mike, right? Like these people who are they up there now. I want to glean something from them. I want to glean something from them. It is okay to ask someone, hey, Commissioner Boyce, how did you deal with this relationship issue? That should be a normal practice. Because honestly, the OGs want to give you the knowledge. They want to give you the sap from the tree. They don't want you to go through what they went through. And let me say something out loud. It does not make you weak because you don't know something.
Yeah. Good.
You don't know because you didn't ask, no one taught you, and it's not because you intentionally don't want to know, it's because no one's exposed you to it. So get you some mentors. You can use your church. There's a lot of great men in most churches, or pretty much every church. Use that, leverage that.
Okay. All right, so to the end of the evening now. So the panelists are thinking about that one thing. Can we play the next video? This is the one thing I came up with from a video standpoint, and then I'm gonna just go to whoever wants to go first.
I tell you what, I want to apologize to myself. I want to apologize to myself for dealing with people who I should have never even let close to me. I want to apologize to myself for staying in relationships way longer than I should have, knowing that they were unhealthy, but just rocking out anyway. I want to apologize to me for blaming myself for things that I was not responsible for, just to keep people close to me. I want to apologize for sacrificing so much for people who was willing to sacrifice so little in return. I want to apologize for letting blind faith and potential guide my decision making when reality and common sense was staring me in the face. I want to apologize to myself. Got to take accountability for mistakes that you made, looking back. Regardless of how it ended, we knew better, but we did it anyway. We gambled on what we thought could be and lost. And when that happens, you got to look in that mirror and apologize to yourself.
All right. So I cheated. That's my one thing. I got a video for mine, but all right, who wants to go? Who wants to go first?
I'll kick it off, Commissioner. First and foremost, thank you again for this convening. Thank you again, City of Columbus, for your participation in the elevation of black men. The one piece of advice that I would leave tonight is don't allow your broken season to compromise your blessed season. Don't let your broken season compromise your blessed season. And what I mean by that is allow yourself to be healed. Allow yourself to go through the process. What many of us do very well is we know how to function with our dysfunction. And it's important for us to be healed from all the things that we picked up in those seasons of brokenness. As the man said, broken relationships, broken because of my own decisions, broken because of the environment that I was raised in. Right? Allow yourself to be healed from your broken season so you can fully maximize your blessed season.
Outstanding. Who's up?
Black boys still in the room. Black men, I'm talking to the black boy in you. You worthy, dog. You worthy of all the protection that whoever around you never gave you. You worthy of honoring. You worthy of hearing. You're worthy of growing. You feel me? Many of us as black boys who are still here are told who to be, how to be, when to be there, and we believe it. You feel me? We achieve according to something somebody else said on us. You worthy of being you, bro.
That's good.
You feel me? Whatever that means for you, you actually worthy of going out and fulfilling that. Despite what the world tell you, despite what the people around you, despite what you tell yourself, you worthy, dog.
Man, I appreciate that. Okay, as Dr. Ledet is getting prepared, what I'm going to do is going to tee up that last video because I want you to see what the next series is going to be, because in the next series, we're going to have men and women panelists, and we're really going to get into it. And so I want you to kind of see what the video you're going to see is going to be the frame of the conversation, and I think you're going to like it.
Black man, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go in the bathroom or go in your bedroom, and I want you to close the door. I don't want no one else in there except for you. And for a few moments, I want you to just deal with you. Like sit with you, be with you, love you, heal you, move you, be with you. Because you can't pour from an empty cup. You gotta take care of you first. And the second thing I'll say is, you are not your worst mistake. You're just not. You a king. You blessed. You're amazing. We love you. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. There are no imperfections in your soul. You're God's own. There's no reason for you to think of yourself as anything more than worthy, as my brother Tripp said. No reason. Walk with your head high. God made you. Man. God made you.
Man. You know, I was reading one of the comments that came up as they pulled the video up. One of the comments came up, and it's like, if you can just touch one person, that's kind of how I do my math. If one person in this audience tonight was touched and sort of began to think about their own mental health journey and being stronger, being better, being more vulnerable, opening up, then I feel like we made a difference. And somebody typed on there, I needed this tonight. And so I appreciate that. So, if you liked this conversation, round of applause for my panelists tonight. And if you can, go to the QR code to sign up for the summit, the big summit that we're having. We're going to do a series of these talks, but then we're going to have a big summit to really sort of move that needle. And I want everybody here tonight, and I want everybody listening to be a part of that, because we are going to do this, and we're going to do it together. So tee up that last video to tee up where we're going to go, and our men and women panels coming up next time.
How you miss me? You had me. Like, you had the chance to reciprocate the energy I gave. You didn't do that. Like, you had the chance for us to lay up and binge watch shows and movies and, you know, laugh and just spend quality time with each other. You didn't want to do that.
Men don't care about women's money. We don't care about women's competence. We don't care about women's height. We don't care about all the things that you care about in a man. Attraction isn't symmetrical.
Men, after the breakup of a marriage or a serious relationship, are 1,000% aware of how unready they are for the next relationship. They probably set their sights on an ideal woman.
Only going to judge me based on my size. You just called him short. We don't want a woman that's only gonna base us based off our height. I'm 6'4", he's 5'8".
I didn't judge his character.
But okay, but you judge his height and he doesn't qualify for you. The same.
Now, you had the chance to plan dates and do special things for me. You didn't do that. Like, you had the chance to send me memes and reels that we could laugh at and you know, joke about. You didn't do that.
Difference in this situation between men and women is truly about awareness. Men know from the jump they ain't ready and move accordingly. Whereas women, most women, will mess around and find out they ain't either.
All right. So this next panel is going to be men and women, and we're going to really get into it. And we're going to let them, and I need you all to come back so that we can build on these conversations. I need you all to be engaged so that the series has meaning. And they'll be back. I haven't asked them, but I'm saying they're going to be back, you know, and going to be a part of this some way or another. And when we have that final summit, we're going to really lay it out. And everybody's going to be looking us around the country, because maybe we can start a movement. Maybe we can begin a real pathway of change. So let me close this out with a couple of things. I think we had a great discussion today. Give it up one more time for my panelists. All right. Amazing, real talk. I'd be remiss if I didn't leave you all with a few resources that are here. On the back of your program, you will see services offered by Franklin County, and we urge you to take full advantage of those. If I can be helpful personally, reach out to me. We are thankful that we have so many mental health professionals that are here today. One person that we want to highlight is Dr. Marcus Crosper. Stand up and give him a round of applause for us, please. Thank you so much. He's the CEO of Triumph Living and Mental Behavioral Services and has offered his contact information for anyone seeking further information or conversation one-on-one. And so we appreciate that, and thank you so much for being here. His information is on the screen. I think they're going to put it on there at some point. Don't forget to take a picture of the QR code, and you can register for the conference there. Last but not least, let me just thank our Deputy County Administrator, Joy Bivens. Stand up, Joy. Give her a round of applause for me. I can assure you, there is nobody more passionate about ensuring that everyone has opportunities to mental health resources than Joy Bivens. And we appreciate you and grateful for you and your leadership. And when she and I talked about it, she said, I mean, she's got a whole team of people that are planning this and are part of this. And so thank you. And then all of the team members, for David and Aaron, everybody, where are you at? Give these guys a round of applause. They're up in the booth up there. Thank you, guys. To my staff, Chelsea and Katie, thank you so much for the work that you do and be engaged. They know we sat down. I said, this is my number one priority. And so everything we do is secondary to this. And so we're going to get this done. And they've been working very hard on this. So thank you to them. We couldn't have pulled it off without you. We hope that you'll join us for the Franklin County Empowerment Summit on Friday, April 4th, 2025, from 8 to 4 p.m. Registration is absolutely free. It's going to be a great day, and we're going to accomplish a lot because we will have had the Soul Talk series leading up, and so it's almost like a retreat over time, and so it's going to be great. It's going to be great, I promise. In the meantime, please keep your eyes out for the next Soul Talk, and the date's going to be announced soon. And did I cover everything, David? Is that everything? Anything else? He got the thumbs up. So as we close out, I'm going to ask you gentlemen to stand. Please give them one rousing round of applause one last time. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Everybody drive safely. I'll see you around, and I'm serious. If I can be helpful, don't hesitate to call. Thanks so much.
Tripp, what up, baby? Mr. Boyce. Hey, what's your name? Yeah, what's going on, man? Good job. She gave me a list with dates. I'll get with you. Maybe y'all got me on the same team.